What's up, couples? What's going on? We are truly excited. We just released our third episode on InspireU Network, and we talked about pet peeves. It was fun. It was fun, and we enjoyed it. But I'm just going to give a couple minutes, wait for people to come in. And this is our live Q&A, our live Q&A. Yeah, so we'll dive right in pretty soon. If you're just joining, put in the chat where you are joining from. Put in the chat where you are joining from. Let's see. Yes, let us know where you are joining from. I'll point out the obvious. I am by myself. You can see the chair is empty. My wife is on the way. She may not be able to make this live, but she is trying to get here as soon as possible. She went to a networking event. But yeah, so episode 3, we talked about pet peeves. And on this episode, me and my wife, we kind of, no holds bar. We went in this episode all in love, though. All in love. We talked about some things that maybe annoy us that the other does, and certain mannerisms or things that we do throughout the house or in general. And we kind of put that out there for you all to see. But we didn't talk about everything. We just picked a few things that we were comfortable with. We talked about, having this episode and talking about our pet peeves, or some people call them icks. But we were comfortable with it. So I don't want y'all to think that we just put each other on the spot like that. But I think it's good to, and it's healthy to have those conversations and talk about the certain things that might annoy you or the things that you've noticed. Because if not, you'll hold those things inside, right? And you may let that affect you, or it may show in other areas. You might get aggravated, or you might be short with them. Or you just might, roll your eyes or whatever the case may be, and it could build up into other things. So I think letting it out, talking to each other about it, and maybe working towards like a mutual change of habits or whatever the case may be, I think it's important. But we definitely talked about it and discussed it. Y'all got to watch the episode to see what pet peeves we had about each other. I will name one. So my wife brought up the fact that she has like the SUV, and I have a 4-door car, and we mostly take like her car for like family trips and long distances because it's a bigger vehicle. But sometimes I may take her vehicle to get like dinner or whatever the case may be, and I forget to put the gas in the car sometimes when it's on E. And I'll bring it back home. She'll go in the morning and get in the car. She's like, "Oh, you forgot to put gas again." So that's one of her pet peeves with me. I'm working on it. I will let y'all know that I did put gas in the car a couple of days ago, and she saw it. She called me. She was like, "Oh, you putting gas in the car now? You putting gas in the car? You being attentive?" So I am changing. I'm getting better, y'all. But it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. Um, but yeah, so we talked about that. And I think that I believe that we do have those instances where we have are annoyed by certain things. um, but we talked about how we shouldn't let those annoyances or those pet peeves label our spouse. Like, that is not the sum of who they are, right? That's not who they are at their core, and that doesn't like attack their character or anything like that. It's just a mannerism, and sometimes it might be just those unique things that our spouse just brings with them, that they might be used to, or knew from their childhood or grew up with, that we just might not be used to. We might just come from a different upbringing or a different culture, and some things are okay. Some things we just kind of just let it slide, and that's just who that how that person operates. But there are other habits and other things that people may do that is a pet peeve, but it also may not be healthy for them. Whether if it's overeating, or um, drinking a lot, or whatever the case may be. It may not be healthy for them. So there are some things that we should work together as a couple to change and to help get past that into a better version of who you can be. So I think that that's important, and that's why it's important to have that conversation, to communicate with your spouse. We always talk about how important communication is. The number one thing in your marriage, or one of the number one things, is having good communication. Not holding things in, talking about it, coming to a mutual understanding and compromise. We feel like sometimes you got to change all the way, or this thing has to be different all the way, or nothing. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's about compromise. You may not get all of what you want, but sometimes you can meet you halfway. All right. If you're joining in, type in the chat where you're joining in from. Where are you logging in from? What state are you in, or whatever the case would be? Let us know. Let us know. But we're talking about pet peeves. We're talking about pet peeves. We dropped our latest episode on InspireU Network, and we were talking about the certain things that annoyed us, about what the other person does, but how we move past that, right? And like I said, whatever that pet peeve is, it doesn't mean it's the label of that person. It doesn't define who they are to their core. So we shouldn't put those labels on them. And then we talked about keeping score. So I am a firm believer of keeping score, but not in the way that we normally think. So we normally keep score of the bad things, like you always do this, you never do this. Why does this always have to happen? I don't think that that's a healthy way of keeping score, and it can be toxic. Instead, we should keep score of the positive things. What are the things that you appreciate? What are the things that your spouse does that makes you happy? What are the things that you see that they're improving on? All of those types of things. Make it count, and keep score of the positive things about your spouse, and even make it a competition. Who can think of the most positive things? Who can compliment each other the most? Who can, talk well about their spouse the most? That's, the mindset that we should be shifting to in our marriages and in our relationships in general. Um, I think that's so important. And also, another comment that was made in the episode was, try not to focus on calling your spouse out. A lot of times we call them out on things. Shift that into focusing on calling your spouse up. There might be areas that you see are in, room for improvement, or that they struggle with. Well, speak into who you see them in the future. Speak into their life, the things that you believe are, that they're heading towards, or that they're working towards, or that you want to see them improve in. Speak to those things, especially if they show you that good side, or if they finally do that thing that you've been asking for. Capitalize on that moment. I appreciate when you did this. I noticed that you did this for me, and I'm so thankful. I saw, just like with the gas, I put gas in my wife's car. She called me immediately, and she, encouraged me. She said, oh, you put gas in my car, because I always forget, but I'm trying to work at it. And she could have just ignored it and didn't say anything. But she chose to call me and encourage me and let me know that she was appreciative of me putting gas in the car. So just situations like that, we should do a lot more. Um, Another thing we talked about was making a list. My wife is a journaler, and she, makes, in the morning, she writes in her journal. She writes about her, it's about how she's feeling, the things that she's believing God for, and she journals all the time, which I think, is a great attribute. I don't journal as much, and I should, and I got to get better at that. But I never really journal. But I think it's a key tool in your marriage to write down the things that you're appreciative of and that you're grateful for, especially when you're in those high moments of your relationship, in your marriage, when everything is going well, when things are fruitful, when you're thriving, when you're feeling good about your spouse is feeling good about you. Take that moment to write that down. Write about how you're feeling. Write about, what's going on. What are the dynamics that are making you feel that way? What are the things that they're doing that are making you more content and have that happiness? So this way, when you have those rough patches or when you have those down periods, you can go back to that journal. You can go back to what you wrote down and remind yourself, and just kind of look back at the positive things about what your spouse brings, about what your marriage brings to the table. So I think that that's, very important. And also, it's good to, remind yourself anyway about what your spouse brings to the table. And it's good for your spouse to hear what they bring to the table, because sometimes we get so busy that we're just going through the motions, and you take out the trash all the time, you wash the dishes, you mop the floor, you fold the clothes, and those are just things that you just normally do. But those are great attributes. Those are things that can be appreciated, and we got to remind ourselves of that. And my wife said that she wasn't like a words of affirmation was not her love language, but it's still good to hear it. It's something about speaking things into existence. It's something about being more appreciative and seeing your spouse in a greater light than all the negative. I talked about how they look different when you're more appreciative. They sound different. They smell different. Just their whole aura is different when you are in that gratitude space, that gratitude piece. And you can pull from those moments when it's tough. You can pull from, it's like you're making deposits, in your marriage. And, you see him do something, you say something nice, it's putting a deposit in. You're putting a deposit in so that when you get drained or you get in those rough places, you can start to deduct those. You can start to pull from that. Just like when you go to a bank, and you put money in your savings or your checking. And then when you're low, when you're depleted, you go to the bank and you pull from that so that you can restore, so that you can replenish what was kind of drained or lost. So definitely, putting those deposits in, saying those words of affirmation, um, and communicating. I think communicating is a top tier thing to do. So yeah, it was a great episode. We were like, again, running around the house making noise because we're just so excited. We get so thrilled every time we air, just because to see what God is doing with this platform. But I do want to take a moment to just shout out all our supporters, everybody who texts, emails, messages me and my wife, and just let us know, encourage us with what we're doing with this platform. I don't know if you've seen our first episode, but we talked about staying connected. And when I have people reaching out to me saying, "Oh, we tried this thing that you guys suggested and we loved it. We plan to do this, going forward." That just like brings joy to my heart. So thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the support and the love thus far. We got a long way to go, and we're not about to stop yet. But our goal and our mission is to reach those marriages who are in need of help, those marriages who are doing just fine, that community, just to continue to push and encourage you to thrive, to be great, not perfect, but to be great, which you definitely can be. So hopefully all of these things helps you. Our episodes help bring something new and fresh to your marriage. And again, next week we are dropping episode 4. And we're looking forward to it. Episode 4 is going to be about busyness in your marriage, and how you can slow down and kind of be in the moment and be present. So episode 4 is busyness. We talk about how sometimes busyness gets in the way of our marriage and our life, and ways to overcome that. So check us out next week, Thursday, on the InspireU Network. If you have Roku, if you have Fire TV, if you have Apple TV or a mobile device, you can download the app for free. It does not cost anything. And make sure you check out our new episode next Thursday at 7. We do have 3 episodes. We're 3 episodes in, so you can watch those on demand. Definitely check those out. And then let us know. Let us know what you think. Message us. Hit us up on YouTube. Instagram, you can DM us. Let us know what you think of the episodes. We've been getting some great feedback, but I want to know what you think. I want to know what you think about the episodes, and any feedback that you have. We'd be definitely grateful to hear that. So I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna sign off. My wife didn't make it. I tried to talk as much as I could, but hopefully this live Q&A was helpful to you as we broke down the episode a little bit more. Check it out if you haven't seen it. It should be available tomorrow on InspireU Network on demand. All right, we appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great night and a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.